museum. I'm here on the second day because of the beautiful collection of Buddhist art. They also have a special exhibit on India, the art of the temple, but unfortunately it won't open before August 5th. I am leaving on July 26th. There is a large crowd of tourists, almost all Chinese. Very rare I saw few foreigners, at least in this museum. I could count less than 10. While I am waiting in the line, I look around. Shanghai has got a very unusual skyscraper architecture shape. This is just a few. I saw many more unusual shapes. I'm not videotaping from where I'm standing. I don't want to leave the line either. Look at that little girl, the way she's wearing her sunglasses. What was Louvre Gallery of Chinese sculpture in the Shanghai Museum. Sculpture has been made in China since ancient times. Human and animal figures being modeled even in the prehistoric times. Fine carvings in jade and other semi-precious stones were produced in Shang and Zhou period, which is 16th to 3rd century BC. Stone statues and clay figures made for tomb emerged as the art form during the Qin and Han period, which is 221 BC to AD 220. Beginning in the 1st century AD, in the Eastern Han period, Buddhism and Buddhist art came to China from India. The Northern and Southern dynasties period, which is AD 221 to AD 618, witnessed major developments in Buddhist sculpture, as can be seen today in the cave temples of Dunhuang, Meiji Mountain, Yungang and Langmen. Though fine Buddhist sculptures of stone and gilt bronze survive from other places as well, these cave temples are particularly important to the history of Chinese sculpture because they were carved over a long period of time, making them a record of the sculpture style of successive periods. Sculptures made in the time of the Northern Wei dynasty, which is AD 386 to 535, have a graceful linear style that resulted from combining a traditional Chinese sculpture style with the influence from India and then Central Asia. In the later half of 6th century, however, under the Northern Qi and Sui dynasties, Indian influence receded and very expressive local style arose. In my opinion, what I have seen, the bridge of the nose was longer in the early 1st to 6th century AD of Chinese sculpture, but later it became more flat. The ensuing Tang dynasty AD 618 to 907 was a classic period of Chinese sculpture. A strong realistic element appeared not only in Buddhist sculpture but also in stone carvings and clay figures made as tomb furnishings. In all these categories, the masterpieces of the Tang dynasty are unsurpassed. Further change took place in the Shang dynasty which is AD 960 to 1279, when Buddhist sculpture acquired a new liveliness and elegance. A dry formation characterizes much Buddhist art of the Ming dynasty, which is AD 1368 to 1644, and Qing dynasty or a period which is AD 1644 to 1911 periods. Perhaps owing to the decline of the religion itself, but some fine work were nevertheless produced. Painted wood 475 to 221 BC. Clay figure 206 to AD 8. Bodhisattva AD 526. Bodhisattva AD 524. Because this was before 6th century AD, the nose of the bridge is typical to that of India, Buddha's country of origin. Later they Chinesized by making the nose flat in their sculpture. Of course, no one has seen what Buddha really looked like. Buddha 534 to 550 AD. What one has to admire here is the precision of the work and the good preservation of the fine delicate work. They do not say what type of stone it is. I presume it could be sandstone. A gilt Buddha made between 4th and 6th century AD. Again, the workmanship is to be admired and its preservation. Palekeshwara Bodhisattva, one can see the Abhaya Hasta, the influence of Hinduism. After all, Buddha was a Hindu at birth. Abhaya Hasta is seen better, and also the mudra of the left hand is not clear to me, as I am ignorant of that particular mudra. I need to ask someone who knows better. Sankhya Muni Buddha 540 AD. This is a stone painted with gold. This is the first one I have ever seen of a stone being painted with gold. Now I take it back. Sukhothai also I saw a huge Buddha of stone painted with gold. This is more clear, of a tall AD 4th to 6th century, made of sandstone, which is very clear, at least on this one for me. It's actually four-sided with some deterioration on one side. This is another 6th century piece from the Kwai period. The workmanship is to be admired, and it's a beautiful preservation. Abhaya Hasta of Buddha. What I do not see is the Geneva. As a Kshatri, I presume he had one, but I have not seen that in any sculpture of Buddha, but I need to continue to observe this. Also, some Buddhas will have a tilak, not all of them. That would include even the Chinese made one, which I will videotape later. This is a four-piece from a Buddhist pagoda. With a very precision work. Made between 4th to 6th century, I should say, carved between those periods. Sankhya Muni Buddha of the 6th century. I can see the Abhaya Hasta and a good preservation and the Chinese characters. Another piece, 6th century, looks like there is a lot of carving done during that period. But what I am seeing here, while Buddha had full hair, maintained a juttu, some of his disciples shaved their head. That shaving of the head is seen even today by Buddhist monks, including female monks. Another beautiful work of sculpture used to be in the same period. Finally, I am seeing one from marble from the same period. Unfortunately, the curator has not identified the type of stone in any of them, just says stone, even though to me it's a clear marble. One can see the clear Chinese characters. This is a four-sided one. This is on the back. His face looks much more peaceful of Buddha. And also the hand posture now is different. This is very common hand posture as seen in many Buddha sculptures. In the 6th century, they also carved Dwarapalaka, they call heavenly guardian. Again a 6th century piece. Some of those decorations sound more of an Indian than of a Chinese decoration that I have seen. And also the prominent lions, which was originally a Hindu concept but later so fully adopted by Buddhism. Now the Hindus have to accept elephant as their symbol, animal. This type of decor in the temple sculpture is very common in the Hindu temples. This 1000 Buddha stuff of 6th century are seen in many other places, or at least one other place. Some of them, of course, disfigured due to whatever the cause. Sankhya Muni Buddha from again 6th century. What I am not able to understand, on the forehead it is more than just a batu, and on the top, seated on the lotus, the figure is not very clear. The stone looks to be marble to me. It's a huge piece. This Bodhisattva of 7th to 10th century is more clearly marble, and face is well preserved even though arms and all are broken, but looks very decorative for Bodhisattva. Maitreya Buddha from 8th century AD. This is another Lokapala from 7th century. They always look somewhat uglier with a big chin. Amitabha Buddha from 8th century. Maha Satama Prata Bodhisattva, 6th to early 7th century. One has to see the decor and the good preservation. Even though it's later, the bridge of the nose is maintained of the Indian sculpture, keeping him the originality of his origin. This one from a century earlier is referred to as a Avalekeshwara Buddha. I still have to learn the differences of various nomenclature used to describe. All of them are, however, Sanskrit, well adapted into Chinese Buddhism. Bronze Amrita Buddha, 7th to 8th century. Well preserved. Head of Lokapala, pretty huge. Marble lion, 7th to 10th century. I am not sure whether lions were natural habitat in China, but India for sure, without any doubt. For example, Gar forest. Lokapala, 7th to 10th century. One can see the clear kapha prakriti of the Lokapala. Kashyapa and Ananda, 10th to 13th century. I have never seen this Kashyapa being bald, unless it is some other Kashyapa, not the Kashyapa sage that is known in the Hinduism. Ananda, while is considered was a disciple of Buddha, question arises, another disciple was Kashyapa, who could have been very different than the Indian or Hindu sage, because both are shaven their head, even though the sculpture was much later date compared to time of Buddha. Head of Kashyapa made of wood of 7th to 10th century. The clear nose of the bridge can be seen very clearly, and the face is also much of a Hindu or Indian, and again I presume he could have been one of the disciples of Buddha, not the sage. Bodhisattva, 10th to 13th century, of wood pointed. Here one can clearly see the Bottu on the face. Mahavairakana Buddha, 12th century AD, well preserved, gold, pointed on bronze or a gilt bronze. This Bodhisattva of a gilt bronze of 10th to 12th century is well preserved, very decorative, and the mudras are very different. Another Bodhisattva, 10th to 13th century, with a clear bottu and pretty tall, almost 5 foot in length. The final one in this section is a Bodhisattva with Bottu, wood painted, 12th to 13th century. Well preserved. India, the art of the temple, which I will not be able to visit because of the conflict of the date, sponsored by Shanghai Museum and the British Museum, starts on August 5th until November 15th. The museum looks very nice, as one can see from the first floor and going on the escalator. As I keep going to the third floor, how the inner quadrangle looks like. Another view going down.